Hey everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the series for Yule Film Fest, our holiday-themed online film festival. Today's episode is based on the judging process that we run through. So one of the goals of the series is just to be fully transparent in how we go about doing our film festival, how we critique and judge, how we select films on that, the goals for the film festival, just full kind of clean slate of how we go about doing that. In terms of judging, it's worth noting for I myself, so I came up with the idea for Yule Film Fest, if you haven't seen the other video on this, in probably 2019. It got pushed to 2020, so we weren't able to go live on doing that until October 2020 for a holiday film festival that screened in December of 2020. So we were lucky enough to get enough actual content in there, enough films submitted to Yule Film Fest, and I was lucky to have a handful of judges. There were 5 judges that actually critiqued and had scoring sheets to go through and watch about 3 to 4 hours, probably 4+ hours actually, worth of short films on that scale, going through the grading and how to go about doing that, which is great. And that's more or less what we're looking at now. I myself, as I mentioned, don't do the judging itself, so I select which films fit what we're looking for, but from a judging standpoint, I kind of stay out of it. In terms of what we look for Yule Film Fest on the short perspective, it obviously varies depending on the genre that you're going through, because some, like we have a trailer competition, and trailers are kind of limited in how those are being dissected, where we have like an international one, where the international films have an entirely different grounding on how they're being judged on that. But the general consensus of these score sheets that we give our judges basically boils down to several notches on that. So the first being originality or creativity. What we're looking for is unique stories. So because it is a holiday driven short film festival, most films don't have to necessarily take place in the holiday stretch, but for most of them, if you look on the live action or stop motion, animated, most of our short criteria in terms of the category on that do require a holiday theme, and the holiday taking place in November or December. And with that, it doesn't have to be your standard like Christmas or Hanukkah or any generic holidays like that. It's really just kind of that season. So even from other countries, if there's holidays taking place and they have short films on that, that's what we're looking for, is just something within that window of time, fully diverse in terms of what we're actually looking for on it. With it though, creativity and originality is something that we look for. So it needs to be not kind of the routine trend that you see go through most short films. Like in general, for short films and feature films, you can see the same ongoing themes and storylines kind of tweaked. They're just notched a little bit to adapt for the writer or director's own storyline basis. We try to look beyond that, so we're trying to look for shorts that are really unique, and that's one thing that I was actually really impressed with from our first year, just reviewing the films that were coming in. It was just very uniquely done. It was a very wide range of good quality shorts that came through, which is just incredible. And then that is scaled, like the other criteria for our judges, 1 out of 10. So we'll take all of those scores and then average them out. The second piece on it is story or pacing. So we want it to keep the same pacing throughout the short. We don't want a rushed intro or a rushed outro on the storyline that we're looking at, and then maybe the middle misses, or maybe vice versa. Maybe the middle is pretty quick, so it's just kind of beginning and end are the key things for a short, and then they get dragged out to the point where the center part where everything is taking place is neglected. We really want a balanced film, and that's again 1 out of 10 that the judges are scoring that way. Third piece, it is a film festival, so cinematography is significant. It doesn't have to be the highest quality, but it has to be angles that are not rough to go through, not rough to look at. So we're really looking for just kind of a basis of everything universally fitting in and that would be where we want to see something that's pretty common. So you want to see common angles, things that aren't uncomfortable to watch. Things are easy on the eyes to watch and digest from a visual standpoint. Same with it. The fourth item is sound and music. So sound and music to me is the most significant piece of films, whether it be feature or short films. I think that is just kind of the ultimate basis. Where 1 out of 10 again is the scoring on that, but it's just a matter of incorporating music and sounds correctly, making sure the balance is there so it's not very high, very low. There's a few films that looked visually stunning that were submitted last year, but really from a sound perspective, a little rough, especially for judging end, and as we really lay out the framework of how the films are going to screen. Kind of rough to kind of balance through when some of them are much louder and some are faint in certain sections. So it just having that balance in general, and even I would say for other film festivals, is a key thing to make sure that the sound and music fits the tone, it's used correctly, and that there's nothing too extreme with that. You want to use sound in film to exemplify emotion. You don't want it to ruin the emotion that goes with your story. And then the final piece is beginning and ending. So the beginning and ending have to be significant. I know I mentioned before, we do want it to be balanced, so we want that middle content range to be good still, but beginning and end has to be a very significant portion of the story that we're looking for. If either one is weak or both are weak, it does make it a little rougher to watch. So from a viewer standpoint, it's a little more difficult to run through on that. So the judges, and I watch them all, but there's definitely some, it's not many, but there's definitely some shorts that came through last year that were just not set up, I guess, correctly on that. There's just not an introduction to what's going on or anything, and it doesn't really wrap back at the end either. So you're just kind of following this narrative without knowing who the people are, who the environment is, what the tone of the story is, and then it ends that way. And that's a big thing. I myself, having done several short films, my first one or few probably, similarly done. You kind of get ahead of yourself and you want to get it out there, and then the beginning or the end or both just misses. So you're not able to get the full wrap that we're looking for on that. Again, all those pieces, so all 5 pieces are done on a scale of 1 to 10, and then we had 5 judges before last year in 2020 for the first year of our film festival. We might have more judges just to balance it out. But that's a big thing that I look for, is just making sure that we actually have enough judges in place to have a balanced story. And that's one thing that we're going to keep doing, to make sure that we have judges with different backgrounds, of different ages, and different tones on what they're expecting as we go through these from a general genre criteria and scoring, because there's a lot of different categories of short films that we have in Yule Film Fest. It's it's pretty diverse, and that's one thing we take pride in. So we want the representation to be there in terms of judging those films that way. Outside of that, that's really what we look at from a judging standpoint. It is ultimately our judges having a scorecard. They go through 0 to 10 points, and then we average all the scores together, and ultimately for each category, the highest average score across those group listings that I mentioned, for like sound, cinematography, story, all those elements, that total score that is highest is the winner. And we could have ties, so there is totally the possibility that we would have ties. In the first year, it did not happen that way, but I know from my mindset, I do expect at some point we will have ties that way. In the meantime, if you are a filmmaker looking to submit your film to any short festivals, definitely check us out, yulefilmfest.com. We're up on Film Freeway too, so I'll link everything down below here. And then it'll be in the description as well. Even if not, if you're just a fan of watching movies, TV, short films, independent projects, 100% keep in the loop. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, even on our website, because we are going to wrap that up. And then once we have the submissions, we'll have tickets, It is taking place over a 3-day period. So Yule Film Fest is in December 19th through the 21st this year. The first night will probably be covering some of our old films from the first year that we ran through that, and that is probably going to be a free day. It's not going to be like a ticket sale day. The other two will be. So for the actual 2021 film criterion, which films go there, that'll be where tickets pop up and we watch and screen through BingeWave, which is a great platform too. Outside of that, I appreciate you guys watching. Check us out at Yule Film Fest.